Now, welcome to another lightning response video. We got a couple questions today, starting with this one from Two Skeletons Official, who asked, "Hey Thor, longtime viewer, first time commenter. Like many here, I'm a lifelong fan who's basically checked out from Star Wars as well as most other big franchises, to be honest. And while I've enjoyed a few things Disney has put out, for the most part I've simply been not interested. That said, whenever I hear critics or commentators on Star Wars, MCU, Rings of Power, etc. talk about the importance of giving fans what they want, or treating that as a solution to a given franchise's current ills, I'm not really sure that's the best idea. As a world builder and aspiring writer, the last thing I want is to feel that my creativity is beholden to anyone else's whims, let alone trying to those of a faceless mass of desperate consumers. Of course, as long as art is being produced for profit, there will be that consideration, but one would hope a balance could be found between creative freedom and just giving the fans what they want. I've also never felt that authors or creators owe anything in particular to their fans. I paid for the ticket, I get to watch the movie, transaction complete, whether I enjoyed it or not. In particular, I want to bring up this quote from George Lucas in the Star Wars Archives episodes 4 to 6 that I really love and seems to contradict the idea of just giving the fans what they want. But then when the movie came out and everybody says it's terrible and asks, "Why did you do this? This is the worst film ever made," I can say that's the film I wanted to make. I don't have any excuses, and that's the best feeling in the world. That's how I tolerated all the craziness. What do you think of that sentiment and how it applies to the current discourse in Star Wars and fandoms more generally? And I think the biggest sticking point when it comes to these mega franchises like Star Wars, Marvel, Lord of the Rings, DC, whatever it might be, but we'll mainly talk about Star Wars here, of course. But I think the big sticking point is that they are oftentimes no longer owned or controlled by the person who originally created it. Of course, that's the case with Star Wars and Disney purchasing Lucasfilm 12 years ago now. And so when Disney or those at Lucasfilm today decide to do something with Star Wars, tell a particular story, there's always that shred of doubt or potential for a debate about whether or not it aligns with what originally was intended or what the original creator, what George Lucas intended out of Star Wars. And so I don't think it's so much that fans are demanding certain projects or else, or that they want to be in full control or say this is what we want and we will not accept anything less. And sure, there are certain things fans would love to see or ask for, like, hey, let's do that Plagueis novel in a series, or let's do Darth Bane, or let's go to the Old Republic, or how about a Revan story, or whatever it might be. Or they'll be disappointed that we didn't get something like the Thrawn trilogy and we got the sequel trilogy instead. Certainly fans have their opinions and things they would like to see, but I don't think they want like full control. I don't think they're saying if you're going to do this story, you must do it this way. I think fans are open to a lot of different things. And the reason why they get upset is because, like I was saying before, they don't seem to align with what the original creator had in mind. And sure, Lucas with the prequels got a lot of flack from the fans for killing or destroying their childhood or ruining Star Wars. So I'm not saying if Lucas was still in control today, he wouldn't be getting flack for his decisions too. But I do for the most part agree with you. If you are the original creator of something and you want to make whatever you want, sure, the fans have every right to be upset, I still think. But it is your story, it is your universe, it is your everything. So if this is how you feel it goes, well, that is up to you. I think when the original person still has it, there should be more leeway given by the fans for the creator to do what they feel is right. But when it becomes something owned by Disney, when it becomes a purely for-profit thing, I think the fans maybe should have a bigger say on what gets made, not how it gets made necessarily. I don't want to have the fans voting on this is how this particular story should go or anything like that. But they are trying to appease a customer base. That is how Disney looks at it, right? They look at us as customers. They could care less about us being fans. They care that we pay money. So there's this very fine line here. And granted, something like Andor is an example of a project many of us fans probably said we don't care about, we don't want, we'd rather have something else. And yet, for a lot of fans, that is the best thing Disney has done with Star Wars. So again, there's this very fine line between creativity, what the fans want and deserve, I would say, given they are paying the money for something that they are fans or customers of, and the creative freedom of whoever might come in to work on Star Wars, though if they don't want to beholden themselves to previous parts of the lore or previous stories, whatever it might be, that is, of course, where fans tend to get upset. It's not so much that they're not willing to give new people coming in creative chances, if you will. It's that oftentimes when they do come in and get creative, they get creative not to honor Star Wars or to enrich it. I was talking about this in a video the other day. They do it because this is what they think Star Wars should be. This is their version. And though sometimes that works, oftentimes it doesn't because it's only your version of Star Wars. And again, you're not the original creator, so you don't have the, I guess you could say, authority to make those decisions, or that's how the fans are going to feel. Who are you to say this is Star Wars when I have been a fan since 1977? I've watched all the movies 100 times, I've read all the books, I've played the games, I know this thing backwards and forwards, and you come in and think you know Star Wars better? But anyway, before I keep rambling, my point is simply that fans should have some sort of say, but they shouldn't be dictating everything, not even close to it. And what I talked about in yesterday's video is they seem to take ideas that fans do want, like the Kenobi series, Book of Boba Fett, going back to the time of Plagueis, and instead of really trying to make something that the fans will like or appreciate, and some do appreciate those shows, certainly, but they try to get creative where they really don't need to get creative. Give us a pretty straightforward Boba Fett ass-kicking show. Give us the introspect about Kenobi. And I know, some people, again, will disagree. They like those shows as is. But I think the issue with Disney or modern-day Lucasfilm is they try to get creative where they don't need to get creative. And instead of giving us, like, genuine creativity, going to different and new parts of the galaxy, things that won't necessarily tread on the lore that is already established, instead of doing that, they take the things we know and love and try to alter them and change them. And that's what, of course, pisses off the fans. Alright, and now on to this sort of related question from Captain Link72, who asked, "Hey Thor, part question, part anecdote. If we're all tired of all the modern day entertainment, what's stopping us from either individually or collectively creating new universes in which to tell our own stories? We can be inspired by those who came before us instead of waiting for the studios to finally get it right, while at the same time creating new worlds and experiences for ourselves and possibly even for others to explore and enjoy and just have fun. I'm really tired of seeing my favorite franchises go down the gutter for a variety of reasons, one of which being a subpar or just downright bad stories. I had a recent epiphany in which I realized I was tired of playing in other people's sandboxes and wanted to make my own sandbox in which I could tell whatever stories I wanted without the limitations of whatever other universe I found myself in. I know in the past you mentioned creating a series of stories with your continuity in a sort of open-ended shared universe. I've always been pleased with your stories, and seeing you craft a universe of your own may help to inspire others to do the same. That's all long-winded, semi-organized rant over. Have a good one, Thor, Naboo, and Cats." And nothing is stopping whoever wants to create their own stories, their own universe, from creating it and then sharing it on the internet for other people to enjoy. Now, the problem is, or the double-edged sword of having something like the internet where virtually anybody on the planet could, in theory, create a story that is the next Star Wars, the next big thing, is that many people are trying to do, well, not necessarily create the next Star Wars, but many people are trying to get noticed. Many people are putting great stories out there. I'm sure there are some fantastic stories, maybe on YouTube, some fan pages, wherever they might be, that would blow your mind, but nobody is reading them because there are a million stories out there. And my idea for a shared universe was just that, a universe that is truly shared, that technically I would own. I had a long conversation with a lawyer about this, and they said my best bet would be, of course, to retain the rights so that someone else doesn't just come along and claim the rights and close off the shared universe from everybody. Anyway, my idea was just that, to have a shared universe where anybody could come in and create a story of any kind, be that just a simple short story, a book that they want to sell, a visual project that they want to sell or put on YouTube or try to monetize. You could do whatever you wanted. I would basically create a story that laid the groundwork, how this universe essentially works, so it would be one big, and I do mean big, kind of world. That sort of, and this might sound a little generic or like it has been done before, because it has, but it's a world that would essentially recycle itself in a manner of speaking, that sometimes looks very similar to how it was before and sometimes looks very different, and sometimes you have the same sort of souls who come about, the same sort of characters who might be very similar to previous iterations, they might be very different, That would be all up to whoever's creating the story to decide. And one of the ideas here is to allow different genres to be used. The world could look very Middle-earth fantasy. It could look more Star Wars or cyberpunk, whatever it might be. And what would be interesting is these different versions of the world would kind of build off each other. It is a progressive story. It's not like a multiverse per se. There is only one world or universe and everything is linear in theory, though how it would all fit together would be tricky with so many people writing different stories in different versions of the universe, which is why there would be sort of an official canon that would be decided upon by the fans. If a story is really good, it gets put into the very official canon. Otherwise, it is more speculative canon that it could have happened. Maybe it didn't happen exactly this way. I don't have all the details worked out, but that is the general idea there. In other words, what happened in one version of this universe could impact what happens in another. There is a overarching story that I would kind of try to be in control of personally, or that I would allow others to certainly interject their ideas and try to take it over if they want. I'm not really making this for my own personal gain and benefit per se. I just think it would be a cool idea and something I would love to work on. I would love to get my own creative thoughts out there and to inspire others to do it. So yeah, that is my general idea, very vague idea. I have started to work on a story. I have started and stopped and started over. I don't know how many times in the last probably couple of years, to be honest with you. This is an idea I've had for quite a while. I only shared it maybe a few months back now. But yeah, I'm my own worst critic. I'm trying to write the story, but I'm just never happy with what I write. So eventually I'll get to the point where I just start putting something out there, good or bad, and then maybe other people can run with it and make it better. But anyway, I am done rambling for now, so do take to the comments below and tell me what you think about any of my responses to these questions or about my very vague idea for the shared universe. Or you can always ask a question for a future lightning response video. You just gotta start your comment off with "Hey Thor," and then you ask away. But whatever you choose to do, leave a comment below. Let's talk some Star Wars or whatever else. And until next time, thanks for watching.